Hey everybody, Joseph Rothschild here, aka MBT. Are you bored and alone on a Sunday? Well, according to my viewership data, statistically you are. If so, feel free to hop on over to twitch.tv/MBTYugiOh, where the 4th Yu-Gi-Oh! Quarantine series is currently in progress. Hope to see you there. Good afternoon, Jank enthusiasts! I'm MBT, and this is 10-Minute Testing. I'm not a big fan of solved formats, and aside from the possible inclusion of water into the rogues gallery of decks I will literally quit Yu-Gi-Oh! Before having to play a match against, this format seems pretty solved. There's not much interesting happening in the top tier, so let's ignore the Eldliches and Adamancipators for a minute to see what's happening in Tier 3. Today we're looking at an extremely interesting take on Mekk-Knight that aims to fulfill Sangan's promise of searching after a TGU summon. Presenting CHERUBINI MEKK-Knight. Before we begin, if you're on the fence about subscribing, let me sweeten the pot for you. If you click that little button below the video, I'll call up my uncle who works at Konami and have him ban every rock-type monster on June 1st. So here's the list, and I assure you, a 1-1 split of TGU arts is optimal. As always, I'll give you a background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course, the card by card. But first, this video is sponsored by Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck is an online strategy site for our mutual favorite card game. It's got a deck builder, card database, and a wealth of strategy articles. It's also where I post the Quarantine series deck breakdowns, so give it a look at www.ygoprodeck.com. Now let's mess with mechs. Mekk-Knight is an incredibly powerful engine of big old bunguses who can be summoned to any zone occupied by 2 or more cards. In the past, they've been a fantastic tool alongside companion engines for powerful blind second strategies, but in the present, going second is a bit too much of a liability for these colorful chonkers. As a result, they've supplemented their builds with single-card playstarters that can turn into a link monster and a spell or trap in order to make a 2-material column without the opponent's assistance. While the most popular mech variant by far is Invoked, Duel Link's mascot and 2011 Ruling's Nightmare tour guide from the underworld satisfies that condition as well. Our build aims to summon TGU and Sangan, link summon Cherubini, send the Phantom Knights of Silent Boots, and set a Phantom Knight's trap in Cherub's column. The advantage this has over Invoked setups is the Sangan search, and by adding Mekk-Knight Orange into the deck, and into hand, we can use its non-effect special summon condition to get it onto the field, enabling 2 negates through Morningstar if we've drawn another Mekk-Knight. Since Mech is so consistent, we're able to plan for hands where we've already got what we need by adding additional Sangan targets of hand traps, extenders, and even Santa Claus, a proto-kaiju with an extremely convenient attack value. So with that, let's get into the card by card. Firstly, our mechs. 3 purple, 2 blue, which has massively decreased utility in a blind first build, indigo, red, yellow, and orange. After that are 2 tour guide from the underworld and 3 Sangan. Don't be upset if you grab the Gan instead of the girl, Almirage more than makes the combo itself. We're on Boots and Cloak for Phantom Knights, Santa, and triple DB Crow, though this can be adjusted based on metagame preference. For spells, we want a significant amount of spells we can set then activate, so we've got 3 Desires and a Reborn, followed by 3 World Legacy's Memory and a Key, which negates trap cards. I'll be real with you, this card is not very good. After that is 3 Infinite Impermanents, Brig, Sword, based on if you need extension or negates, and World Legacy's Secret. Finally, our love letter to the format, 3 Dark Ruler No More, and 3 Evenly Matched. In the extra, we're on Boral's Load and Sword, Zeraboros, Spectrum Supreme, BLS, Trisbana, Nightmare Unicorn, double Mekk-Knight of the Morning Star, Nightmare Phoenix, Cerberus, IP Masquerena, Cherubini herself, and double Salamangrate Almirage. So with that, let's jump into the games. Our first match is up against Resonator, and that's a weird sentence that just came out of my mouth. This archetype got some new support in Eternity Code, but unfortunately for our opponent, is still bad. We are going first. We're going to lead with a copy of Tour Guide from the Underworld, which eats an Ash Blossom. That's fine. Our hand is pretty powerful regardless. We're going to go into a copy of Almirage before setting a card and summoning a purple Nightfall using its effect for an Indigo. We'll special the Indigo and make Mekk-Knight of the Morning Star. We'll activate its effect by pitching the other purple, setting 2 cards, and passing it back to our opponent. They're going to lead with a Resonator Call. Afterwards, we're going to special summon a copy of Crimson Resonator and normal a Red Familiar before specialing a Hat Tricker and going into Red Rising Dragon. We'll flip Secret here, but unfortunately our opponent has a called by for our target, forcing us to activate World Legacy Memory in order to get a Mekk-Knight into the same column as Rising. Its effect will be negated and they'll proceed to battle phase, but uh-oh, Morningstar has effect text. At end step we're going to activate the effect of purple in order to add a Red Moon from our hand, and from this position it should be trivial to win the game. We're going to special summon this copy of Red Moon, get a copy of Blue Sky, we'll special a Blue Sky by making a column for a yellow, we'll special the yellow, use Red Moon's effect, and proceed to battle phase. We'll get over the dragon and get in directly for 23, for 2000, for 22, and for lethal. I do want to reinforce the point that while this deck is very fun, it is not competitive versus Tier 1. To illustrate this, we're going to play against Eldritch. Our opponent is going first. They're going to lead with a copy of Pot of Extravagance and follow it up with a copy of Charge of the Light Brigade. They're on the Lightsworn version, so they're going to activate White Destiny, set a couple of cards, then normal summon Raiden. What do you know, Raiden mills off the top a copy of Eldritch, and if you were confused as to why they're playing Raiden in the first place, it's because it's a tuner for Hauka Fibrax. That'll turn into a Jet Synchron, which will turn into a Linkuriboh, triggering the grave effect of Jet Synchron, and making an Appaloosa off of one card. Frustrating! They'll pass it back to us, and thankfully, off the top, we draw an Infinite Impermanence. They'll go for an Eldritch, we'll activate Infip, and then from this position, we can special a copy of Purple Nightfall. We'll activate its effect, eating a Conquistador for our trouble. Well, if they were getting Guardian, they probably already have everything else. We'll go into Key and attack into their Appaloosa. They're going to Guardian. We'll move Indigo Eclipse to its zone, and it sticks in Spell and Trap. That's interesting. We'll pass it back to our opponent and activate World Legacy Secret. That'll prompt a Haketo, but we can move our monster over to that zone, negating the effect. We'll get a copy of Purple Nightfall, and I'm feeling pretty good, until I realize that their monsters are big enough to challenge mine regardless. We'll activate Purple Nightfall's effect, eat an Ash Blossom, and we have lost our entire board. Quite bad. They're going to activate Scarlet Sanguine to put another 2,500 into our life points before setting one card and triggering Guardian at end phase for a black. For turn, we draw a copy of Orange, and yeah, this is the end of the game. Well, showing Santa Claus is at the very least cute. So it's time for Game 3, and rather than show you a series in which I get completely and repeatedly dominated by Adamancipator, I'm going to give you something with a little bit more interaction. Our opponent's playing Zodiac, a deck that's shockingly been pretty good in recent weeks. Let's hope we can take it down. We're going to lead with a copy of Pot of Desires, finding off the top. No starters. Shoot. Well, we can normal summon a copy of DD Crow and set a spell in order to enable a column for purple. After that, we're going to special an Indigo Eclipse and make Mekk-Knight of the Morningstar so we can get the secrets from our deck and pass it back to our opponent. Still okay. Our opponent's going to activate a Pot of Desires of their own, finding via a Tanky a copy of Thoroughblade. They'll activate its effect, sending a combo to the graveyard before going from Borbo into Drident. In the battle phase, they'll equip a copy of Whiptail, and ooh, we're going to need to negate that. Unfortunately, our opponent has the DD Crow, and while Morningstar does prevent damage or battle destruction, it doesn't prevent banishing. Okay, well, when we summon back this purple, we should be able to flip up this copy of Dark Ruler No More, which will prevent that Drident from chaining to our Red Moon effect. We'll activate Red Moon and go to battle phase, dealing 0 because Dark Ruler has text on it. Now, while Drident was a huge unban for Zodiac, the more powerful card is, honestly, Pot of Avarice. Our opponent's going to activate one of them now before going from Thoroughblade into a combo pitch again, all the way back to Drident, this time with 4 material. They'll equip another Whiptail and attack over our Red Moon. We are running out of chonkers. They'll activate Drident's effect, popping this copy of Secrets while they can as well, before activating Pot of Desires, going down to 7 cards in deck, and maybe we can deck them. We're going to go ahead and give them a Santa Claus for their trouble, but 2,500 is a big butt. We'll activate Sangan's effect, eating a Called by the Grave. Shoot. Our opponent's going to activate Zodiac combo, and yeah, it looks like Deckham is off the menu as well. Okay, well, we can go ahead and activate the effect of purple to get a Mekk-Knight in our hand before going into Morningstar and eating the last set card, a Solemn Judgment. You're about to see how our opponent's deck finishes games in 2020. They'll go from Thoroughblade into Chakanine. They'll use Chakanine's effect in order to get back a copy of Ramram that they pitched earlier. They'll use Drident's effect, targeting the Ramram, and then Ramram's effect to bring back an Xyz. They'll go into Tiger Mortar and set a card under that Chakanine, which is a soft once per turn. They'll activate Chakanine's effect to bring back a Drident, and there is Megaclops. Woof. Okay, so Megaclops will bring back Drident and tuck my trap under it, dealing 2,050 damage. All the damage I'm taking is halved, but we are still about to lose the game. Pot of Desires is okay. I obviously would prefer to have a different card in my hand with 4 cards in deck, but evenly matched could do it. They'll destroy my monster, I'll attack into the Megaclops and fire off the evenly matched. Our opponent will Called by the Grave, and they are more than happy to lose their Drident in order to keep this 4,000 attack monster on their side of the field. Yeah, this is the end of the game. So it's time for Game 2, and, well, our hand isn't perfect, but it's also not normal summon DD Crow tier. We're going first, we're going to normal summon a copy of Sangan and link off for an Almirage. That Sangan is going to add a DD Crow to our hand. We'll set a trap and then special summon a copy of Purple Nightfall, which will translate into an Indigo. We'll special the Indigo, make ourselves a copy of Morningstar, use its effect to get a copy of Secrets to hand, set 2, and pass back to our opponent. Things are looking up until I see the Lightning Storm. Well, we can Secret here to advance the Nibiru counter by 1, I suppose. Our opponent's going to activate Pot of Desires, then normal summon a copy of Thoroughblade, go all the way to Drident, and equip a Whiptail. I've seen this line before. They're going to destroy our monster and do 2,800 to our life points. We will get back this purple in our standby phase, and that is very poor placement by our opponent. We'll normal summon a copy of Sangan, we rip off the top. This prompts the activation of Drident by our opponent, which we will chain the effect of purple to, going into an Almirage, triggering the effect of Sangan for a tour guide for next turn, and Blue Sky to get a Red Moon. We'll use Morningstar to set up a column for Red Moon, Moon before destroying our opponent's remaining monster and getting in for a fair amount of damage. With a DD Crow in our hand, we can choke off repeated access to Trident. Our opponent will Lightning Storm again and normal summon a Ram using Chakanine's effect. We'll go ahead and activate DD Crow on the target, which in this case is the Trident, and things are looking pretty good. With no way to win the game, no Trident, and no repeatability, our opponent is going to burn their hand and then afterwards concede. So it's time for game 3, and oh my god, tour guide in the opener, no hand traps from our opponent. We're finally going to be able to show off Cherubini. We'll start with a normal summoned copy of Tour Guide from the Underworld to get a copy of Sangan. We'll link summon Cherubini, Ebon Angel of the Burning Abyss, triggering Sangan for orange and Cherubini to send a copy of Silent Boots. We'll Boots for a copy of Fogblade, and then in the newly made column, summon Purple. We'll activate Purple's effect for Indigo, special this orange Sunset, and go into Morningstar, discarding the Indigo to get a copy of Secret. We'll set 2 and pass to our opponent. Incredible start that unfortunately does not beat Lightning Storm. Okay, we'll chain Secret here. Our opponent will Called by the Grave. That is just rude. We'll Memory in response, and also Fogblade in response. Unnecessary. We'll get a copy of Purple Nightfall, and then our board will be wiped. Our opponent will normal summon a copy of Thoroughblade, discarding a combo before tankying and activating Pot of Desires. They'll go from a Borbo into a Chakanine into a Trident, and then use Trident's effect to target our copy of Morningstar. Some people don't know this, but Purple doesn't have to target himself. We'll banish the copy of Morningstar, and our opponent will banish our copy of Purple in kind. Still, in standby phase, we're going to get back both a copy of Purple and a copy of Morningstar. We'll normal summon a Sangan to go into Almirage. Our opponent will combo their copy of Trident, but that Trident is not long for this world because we are adding Santa Claus to hand. We'll tribute their monster, then special summon a copy of Blue Sky for a Red Moon, special to Red Moon, activate Red Moon's effect, and with a ton of chonkers on our side of the board, it looks like we have just walked away with the set. 2K, 25, 2K, and 23 will wrap it up. So we're back with the deck, and God, that really was just a glimpse into an alternate future where Secret Slayers was delayed. Let's do the pros and cons. First, the pros. It's good at finding the same lines every game. Mekk-Knight's 18 searchers are a blessing, and you've got 5 extremely good and 10 reasonable normal summons. 2, it's competent going first and second. Obviously, it's difficult to mount a comeback against the likes of Adamancipator or Eldritch, but against anything else, the Mekk-Knights do a great job of fiending negates. And 3, it's adaptable. Playing Chonkers means you're able to pivot between several different game winners in the extra deck, including BLS and every Boral. And the cons. 1, it's not as good as the 2, or maybe 3 top decks. That's a sentiment you're going to hear a lot for the next couple of weeks, and I can only hope it changes in June. 2, it's got an issue with big monsters. Without any innate ways to out Chunguses over 2500, you often have to commit to a huge Link summon, which can set you up for some game-losing follow-up turns. And 3, it is literally impossible to play over remote duels. Get excited to start zone arguments with your opponent. All in all, I'll be building this in paper for semi-competitive play, but in any serious capacity, it's unlikely to make an impact in the current metagame. So that's that. As always, thanks to my patrons, Meatmoto27, Tamamo Bay, Alex Perea, Austin Lyles, Candyman, Crispy, Mika Reichman, Sir Tachyon, Tyler Slacks, Tyrese Biggums IV, Andrew Horseman Linderman, Austin Zell, Chad Bortz, Presley Case IV, Moira Brown, Angry Bread, Lucky Number 5, Ahmad Elefandi, Nick Extreme 99, Miyuna Arashi, Jason Leonard, Andrew Boyko, Dunkoro, Nick Dolores, Marty Caldwell, Make Fetza, Blue Boy, Shane Meadow Edits Pronga, David Daniels, Red Eye, Shadal Fusion, Josh, CJ Alex, Stevie Valen, Darcy Tevs, Mitchell Cook, Sam Soon, Kurokaze, Corpse Away, Haroof, Jane Linyas, Dojin is Trubbish, Lucas Hansen, Algis Marcin Kavicius, Lavender Lemonade, Zach McKee, Gustavo Secon, Samuel DeFilippo, Pro FP2, Gamer Games, Michael Oskvark, Dan the Man Hoban, Blab, Blake Root, Standards Objective, Jeff Leonard, Emperor Stove, TJ Steakhouse, Dominic Ernst, Pro Yugi Dad, Picnic Blasted, Lawrence, Gel du Rado, Ernesto Ibarra, Fighting Fang Wong, Donnie Fillerup, Adam Sundquist, Isaac Jackson, Second Lucas Geardas, Adam Trevino, Adrian Bra, and Distrin. If you like what you see, please consider subscribing. And if you want to be part of the process, consider following me on Twitch as well. See you next time.